Howdy, I'm Karl and I work as a hiking guide. In this video, I'll talk about Mount Triglav and the Julian Alps. I have summited Triglav, and if you're planning on doing the same, then feel free to check out this little video where I'll talk about a few things that you should keep in mind while you're planning your trek. This video is not meant to give you all the information you need, but to assist you in your planning, but you'll still need to check out the details yourself. So these are the topics that I'll talk about, and in the background, you'll see videos of what it can be like to hike in the Julian Alps during the summer months. I will not talk about the different seasons, but most people go in June, July, August, and September, when all the huts are open and the weather is more stable. If you're going outside with the summer months, then you're either experienced or you'll go with a guide. You got a map of the national park here, and as you can tell, there are many trails in the Julian Alps. And on this slide, you can see 5 different places where you can start your trek. These starting points will give you about 2,000 meters or about 6,000 feet of elevation gain to the top of Triglav. Distance will be about 20 to 26 kilometers or 12 to 16 miles round trip if you're just heading straight up to Triglav and back. So how do you get to the starting points? Public buses will lead you to several of these trailheads. Getting a rental car is quite practical. Parking can be quite steep, but there are also some areas where you can actually park for free. I'll talk about the different options here. With the first one, this might be the most popular route. It's the least technical one. Comes in from the east, and it will bring you by the huts Planica and Kredarica. The Vrata Valley, little bit more technical, from the northeast, and you'll pass by the Kredarica hut, which is the one at the highest point, and it's a great spot to stay overnight. Next option here will come in from the northwest, little longer. It will bring you by the Dolic hut. You can also pass by Planica on the way. The fourth option, the Seven Lakes Valley from Planina Blato, from the southwest. This one's a bit longer, and I'll talk more about that one later. And last but not least, we have Rudnopolje on the Pagliuca Plateau. This is a very popular starting point, and it comes in from the southeast. And the videos that you see in the background are from this route. It is a beautiful option, and after about an hour, you have excellent views of the mountains and the surrounding valleys. After about 3 hours, you get to this hut at 1,800 meters above. And this is the last hut where you can get water for free, so make sure to fill up your bottles. You can pass by the Planica hut on the way, or go straight up to Kredarica. The different trails in the Julian Alps are, for the most part, well marked, with several signs along the way. Sometimes, though, you have to look for rock cairns along the way, and they have also painted the rocks here and there with arrows and the names of the different cabins. So keep your eyes open for that as well. Some people opt to do Triglav in just one day, which is possible. If you're in good shape, then this can be done in about 10, 12, or 14 hours. I would still recommend that you spend more than one day up in the mountains. So let's talk more about that now. The Julian Alps are beautiful, and so much more than just Triglav. So I recommend that you plan to do several days of hiking here. Extra days will give you more flexibility when it comes to the weather as well, especially for your summit push to Triglav. During June, July, August, and September, there are many hikers up in the mountains, and it's a good advice to book your accommodation, especially if you're going to the Kredarica hut. Staying at a hut does not cost a fortune, and it is a good experience. It is possible to pre-book meal packages as well, but personally, I think it's better to just order from the menu when you are at the hut. Main courses will cost around 12 to 15 euros, and you will usually have several different smaller options for breakfast, like eggs, bread, jam, and so on. Personally, I was not overly excited about the food, but you have to keep in mind that the huts are at high altitude and they bring in the supplies with helicopters. And it's quite practical to be able to just order dinner instead of carrying it all yourself. The huts at higher altitude do not have drinkable water, so it's expensive to buy the water there. 1.5 liters will cost around €6, so you might as well carry some extra water with you if you're able to. So, how do you make a booking? You can find a link in the description below, which will lead you to a page where you can book. This screenshot shows multiple different huts in the Julian Alps, and you can just click on a hut to get more information about accommodation, prices, and availability. When you do, you'll see the options you have for dorm rooms and so on. Most huts are open from June until the end of September, but at lower altitude, the huts are usually open for longer than that. Let's talk a little bit about getting to the top of Mount Triglav itself. The summit is at 2,864 meters above sea level, so about 9,300 feet above. The weather is usually better in the morning, and then it can get a bit more cloudy later in the day, so you're better off with an early start. And if you're planning on staying at the Kredaritsa hut, which I highly recommend since it's at 2,515 meters above at a beautiful location, then check out the sunset and the sunrise. When you're making your way up to Mount Triglav, you'll realize that the rocks have been polished by a lot of boots. So it can be a bit slippery up there, especially if it's wet. As you can see from this map, you have about 3 or 4 main routes up to the top, and they're all secured with cables. So a lot of people use Via Ferrata gear. This is something you can rent at most of the huts for around €10, or you can bring your own gear. If not, you can go without gear. It really depends on you. Personally, I would have been fine without the gear, but there's no reason to not be completely safe by clipping it. And that being said, you might have some rock slides too, so a helmet is nice either way. So I recommend bringing Via Ferrata gear. So let's talk about the Seven Lakes Valley. This is a very pretty area that I highly recommend, and it is possible to do a full loop where you start in the Seven Lakes Valley, you get up to Triglav, you come back a different way, all the way down to where you started at Planina Blato. If you can go from point to point, that's excellent. If not, I'll show you how a loop can be done. Here's a 5-day option for you, and I'll also break it down to a 4-day option and a 3-day option. And this would be an excellent loop. Either way, you'll start at Planina Blato. You will pass by one hut on the way, getting to the Brehudavč hut where you'll spend the night. On day 2, you'll pass by Dolic, you'll get up to Triglav, and you'll get to Kredaritsa, spend the night. Day 3, you'll pass by Valentina Stanica, getting over to Planica, spend the night. Day 4, from Planica, you go past Dolic, back to Brehudavč, spend the night. And on day 5, you leave the cabin and do a different way back home, getting you to Planina Blato. So you can see the blue line on this map. From the top of this blue line, you'd go east early in the morning after you've left the hut. Then you'll cut south over the mountain pass. This is a very nice area in my opinion, and we did see a few Capricorns up here and some other animals, so I really enjoyed this. If you want to do a 4-day trek from the Seven Lakes Valley up to Mount Triglav and back, then this is a good route for you. And if you only have 3 days available, it is still possible. You'll find multiple packing lists online for hiking, so I will not go into details here, but rather point out a few things that you should consider. The gear you'll need will depend on the season, but in general, make sure that you bring proper clothing and sturdy boots that are worn in. The Julian Alps are very rocky, so good footwear is essential. I did mention that water is expensive at the huts, so you might as well carry some extra water or even carry some extra bottles and fill up along the way. I also talked a little bit about the food. You should bring some extra snacks, and if you carry a jet boil or some other cooking device, then you might as well carry some extra food as well. I do recommend hiking poles. With a lot of elevation gain, they'll help you take the pressure off your quads. Just make sure that you can strap them onto your backpack for the final push up to Triglav, as you'll need to use your hands here. And as I mentioned, Via Ferrata gear is also recommended for this section. For the huts, you might want to have some extra footwear for the evenings, like Crocs, for example. You'll probably be in a dorm room where people snore and the light is turned on several times while you're in bed. So consider bringing earplugs and a face mask. And you will need a liner as well. If you're not bringing a physical map, then you should download an app, preferably with a GPS tracker if possible. Maps.me is recommended in this area, by the way. And last but not least, be in good shape for your trek and have fun. And thanks for watching.